I'm Lippy.
And I'm Grumpy. Together, we're Lippy and Grumpy do podcasting.
In this episode, ratings, underpants, merchandise, electric vehicles, and all about going vegan.
So, Lippy, we talked about reviews last week, and I liberally said, please leave a review. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a little harder than I thought. It's actually quite tricky to leave a review for a podcast.
Oh, that's not helpful for us, really, is it?
Well, it's not helpful for anybody. I mean, Spotify, for example, who are a massive supplier of podcasts, you can't review it. All you can do is follow it, basically.
And that's not really a review.
It's not a review at all. Not at all. And interesting, there was a little bit of news about Spotify in the news last week. And obviously they've signed up Harry and Meghan for a eye-watering sum of money to produce a podcast, not dissimilar to this one, it has to be said. And their revenue hasn't gone up as a result.
Where was our offer for that then, eh? If it was similar to ours.
It must have fallen down the back of the sofa.
God.
I'll have a look after we've finished. Yeah, 30 million, I think it was, would be quite nice right now.
It'd be lovely. I'd quit my new job.
Surely not. Yes, so with the reviews, I'm going to review the reviews, and we're using a piece of software, another website, to help us with that. So if you do go to lippyandgrumpy.uk/review, then you can leave a review. It directs you in one of a number of different directions, depending on what platform you're on. So if you can do that, that would be grateful. That said, we do have 1 5-star rating. I don't know where it's come from.
Do we?
Very pleased with that. Thank you very much.
You didn't just sneak that one in there as a test, did you?
Oh, I might have done, actually. That's a good point. I don't recall
doing that. Review your own
that.
podcast. Doesn't work like that.
I think you can if you're selling products on a well-known online shopping store, who shall rename nameless.
True.
And I also had a very complimentary email from one of my fellow lions, who was very impressed, particularly with your delivery, Lippy.
Yes, it was very lovely. I really enjoyed the bit where he said that I could possibly get a job.
Yeah, he didn't mention me.
In front of a microphone, but not you.
He also thought it was scripted, which I quite liked.
Yeah, me too, because it's definitely not. Like, our ramble is a full-on ramble.
It is. We do have a list.
We do.
There is a list that we produce for the week, and then we just prattle on.
We know what we're going to be talking about, but what actually that is said,
the detail
is unknown.
Is unknown. Even as we speak, it's unknown.
Which is a problem sometimes, but actually it hasn't been a problem yet.
No, not yet. Due to very skillful editing on my part, I like to say.
It's not a problem that the listeners know about.
No, definitely not. No. And we had, of course, an email from Davros. Came in a little late this week. I was slightly worried that we weren't going to get one, but it's turned up. Interesting number of different topics in his email. We talked about optimum weigh-in time last week for your diet and how, well, it should be pre-breakfast and post-poo.
Yes.
Apparently, Davros has tried this and it made no difference.
Depends how big the is, I guess.
Well, possibly. Or how good your scales are. He then goes on to talk about something at a butcher's shop, which I don't really understand or want to repeat. So.
But safe not to.
And he follows up with saying he bought an Echo Dot for Mrs. Davros, and they bought another one, and they're now trying to get them to talk to one another by changing the trigger words. I can only imagine he's going to be deported from the house fairly soon with that sort of
I'm not
activity.
sure why you'd want your Echo Dots to talk to each other.
No, I don't either. And it crossed my mind last week when we were talking about getting Alexa to play Nickelback, that anybody listening to this on speakers was probably cursing us.
Yeah. And again this week.
And again this week, yes. If you don't like Nickelback, don't say Alexa play Nickelback. It doesn't work. So lots of events from this week from my side of the fence. Yes, surprisingly. I was very tickled to see the Joe Wicks mishap of last week. And unfortunately, at my great age, I still find farting funny.
It is very funny.
Very funny. And
I am my father's daughter in that sense. I do find farting very funny.
Absolutely. I think if you haven't grown out of it by your age, you're never going to grow out of it. So yes, it just proves he's human.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, and not
because there is doubt, isn't there, that he is some crazy Superman of a man.
Well, possibly just a robot from the future.
Yeah.
Sent back to try and get us all a bit fitter.
And a bit happier.
Yeah. But kudos to him for laughing about it.
Yes, yeah. He was reposting all the memes onto his Instagram story, which was very funny because I didn't know about it until I saw his Instagram story.
No, me neither. No, I'm fortunately not up at 9 doing gymnastics.
I'm working these days.
So am I. That's the point. But, yes, well, good bit of PR as well for him. So well done there. Join the "Oops, I farted during physical exercise" club.
Silver lining in every cloud.
And talking of exercise, I bought some more bamboo underpants, which stop any sort of chafing when I walk, which have turned up at the sorting office and haven't been delivered to the house for some reason. I don't know why. I had a text saying they'd arrived, and then 30 seconds later, a text saying they were at the sorting office. So I'm not sure what's happened there. So I went on. I thought, I could just take a brief stroll into the village and pick them up. Sorting office is only open 2 hours a day.
Obviously. I mean, I
not
think
on Wednesdays.
Before the word we aren't allowed to use,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was only open for us 4 hours a day anyway.
Oh, it goes back in time. It used to be open from 6 in the morning till 6 at night.
That's unheard of since I've been having to go and pick parcels up from somewhere.
Well, possibly because there's fewer parcels, but that's really not the case, is it?
And actually, I think there's probably more parcels. I wouldn't say there's fewer parcels these days.
No,
everyone's having
not.
Everything delivered.
Yeah, so it must be a staffing thing, to be honest.
Yeah, valid point.
So, talking of ordering things, we're going to crack on with some Lippy and Grumpy merchandise in the not too distant future.
We are. Exciting.
It is exciting. I have my eyes on some mugs and T-shirts to start with.
I'd like a T-shirt. I'd wear that all the time.
I think that would be quite cool.
I like a merch T-shirt.
Yeah, so you do need to take charge of this because my disaster with the beer mats, of which I still have 495 of them.
And they're thinner than a wafer-thin mint.
They're thinner than an atom.
They're almost non-existent.
You could probably stack 10 up alongside a wafer-thin mint and be about the right height. They take up no space in depth whatsoever.
I'm quite proud of us. We both said wafer-thin mint without stuttering until just then.
Yeah. And we discovered an awesome series on Netflix. Really very, very good. It's a French series called Lupin, and it's based on the books of Arsène Lupin from beginning of the 19th century. And it's around about the time that Sherlock Holmes was being written as well. So there is a little bit of crossover, and I think one of the books written does have a Sherlock character in it. Anyway, he's the opposite of Sherlock, so he's a gentleman thief. And the Lupin series is about a young lad who grows up having read these books and starts employing some of the techniques in the books to commit some interesting crimes, let's put it that way.
Oh, I think I might try that.
Definitely worth a try. No spoilers, but it starts off with his dad being arrested for stealing jewels from a rich family where he was the chauffeur. And it goes on from there, and it's a really good series. Unfortunately, because I think of COVID, they've had to stop the filming, so you've only got the first part of the first season. So it finishes with an absolute cliffhanger.
Oh no, I don't think I could deal with that.
No, but it might be worth waiting until the rest of the first season is available, because it is, you just really go, oh no.
I'm a binge watcher as well, so I reckon I could watch that first season in a day.
Yeah, it is very, very, very good. And something I sort of follow with a little bit of interest is electric vehicles. And a friend of mine is very into these in a massive way. He's on his second Leaf now. And he had this bizarre Maranello thing about 8-9 years ago, which kept seizing halfway down the hill on his way home. I had to go rescue him a couple of times, which sort of defeats the object of having the electric vehicle.
Yeah, because then you need a petrol one to go and pick you up, bring you back. Interestingly,
Renault have released their sort of small car, which is based very much on the old 1980s Renault 5 Turbo, which was an amazing piece of kit and was a Group B rally car and really quite awesome. We had one at the car show a few years ago, and they're an interesting piece of kit. And I'll stick the photos on our website, but it's not far off in terms of looks. It's quite funky or funky.
It looks a bit like a bad boy's car.
It does look a little bit like a Transformer,
like a roadman.
A roadman? What's a roadman?
It's like a slang term for a boy that's a bit of a player and likes the ladies and, like a Jay from the In-Betweeners.
What, a bit of an idiot?
Well, yeah, they normally are, but also a little, a bit cooler normally. Not actually cool, but they...
I don't think you can get less cool than Jay for the In-Betweeners.
That's a very good point. I don't think you can.
No, it's only up from there. So at last, some news from the allotment and from the garage, as it turns out. So I managed to take all of the cardboard that we kept for your house move.
Oh, have we not told you? We need that now.
Well, it's under it's under a fair bit of compost at the moment. If you want to go and collect it, that's fine.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so I had an apprentice with me, wife of Grumpy, who did most of the wheelbarrowing of various bags in the car to the plot. So, so unfortunately I'd completely under-ordered, so we're going to have to do the whole thing again, minus the cardboard this weekend. But that was good to get that down. And with the rain we've had today, then that should start to break it down, push all the nutrients into the soil. Yeah, it's good. So I've got to move the rhubarb there. And also it'll be the spot for the peas this year, which hopefully...
I do like rhubarb.
Yes, well, you can't harvest it the first year, which was last year. So this year we're going to be full on rhubarb.
Oh, yes. Hopefully I can come and visit a lot.
Hopefully, yes, because I think it will go quite quickly.
I'll have to come and steal some.
So any news from the sewing room or the diet contest?
Yeah, so nothing from the sewing room, but from the diet side of things, we had our second weigh-in on Sunday.
Okay.
And for everyone, it was a little bit less, which is expected because it's like the second week and your body's kind of got used to it. I've also realised I do need to start doing some exercise for my weight to actually come off. I've reached a happy point where my body's we're not losing anything else just from you eating good. You need to do some exercise. So we lost 4 pounds between us, which is still good.
No, that's good. £2 a week each. That is a good amount.
Yeah, that is good. So we were happy with it. I mean, nothing compared to £13 in a week, but we still lost the most. And that's what's important, because as long as we lose the most each week, we'll win.
Very true.
That £13 just made us soar ahead.
Yeah. Is there cash involved?
There is cash involved there. So we've all put a £5 in each. So the winnings, 15 quid, 30 quid between us, 15 quid each.
It's not bad, is it?
Do you know what I'll buy with that?
Takeaway.
A takeaway? A big old Chinese one, probably. Maybe with a pizza on the side. Oh,
that would be good.
I have found my food cravings have just got ridiculous. I sit watching videos of people making donuts and cakes and eclairs and Chinese food. Oh.
Maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe watch videos of canal boats going down canals.
Well, the thing is, I don't do it on purpose, but I'll be watching videos on my phone, then all of a sudden, it'll be 10 minutes later and I'm looking at food and that's all I'm looking at. And Chris is like, what are you doing? I'm like, food.
Yes, a little bit like your mother and golf videos.
But at least we're a team, so he'll be like, no, you're not allowed it. So at least he stops me from actually then going out and buying a donut. And the lockdown kind of stops that as well, because you shouldn't really go out.
Well, not for unessential items like donuts.
But we also, this week, have some house news.
Ooh.
Which is very exciting. So we met with our mortgage advisor because I had a month's pay slip so we could get some things rolling. And we've done the one thing we said we would not do this time around. So last time we met with our mortgage advisor, we viewed a house the weekend after and then put an offer in on it. Because we loved the house, and if we'd got the house and it had gone through, that would have been amazing and we would have loved the house. So it's not that we picked a house too quickly, but then things fell through. So we were like, this time we'll wait, we'll get our mortgage in principle sorted, we'll start viewing houses once we can actually make an offer and actually have the mortgage secured. Yeah, no, we're seeing 3 houses this weekend.
Excellent. Good. That's the way to do it.
Well, we don't even know what we can offer because we haven't got a mortgage in principle. We know roughly what we'll get offered, but...
Yeah, but in terms of efficiency, of reducing the time from making a decision to move to actually moving, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. And 2, we're chainless, and 2 of the houses we're seeing are chainless, so we're like... That could move so quick if we do like it enough. But there's nothing else to do, is there? So might as well go look at some houses.
There is news in the paper of a prediction of a massive price crash come the end of the... Is it free stamp duty or reduced stamp duty?
Reduce. No, free. It's free. But the free stamp duties increase the housing prices.
Yes. Well, that's what they're saying, is that the prices will drop significantly if that comes to an abrupt end.
Because it'll be our second property. We'll just benefit from the drop. Although our mortgage advisor did say he doesn't think there'll be a house drop like everybody's expecting.
Oh, really?
On the mortgage advisor grapevine.
I see. Well, that'll be interesting.
They think there'll be a small one, but not one that's going to make any difference to anyone, really.
Who knows? Who knows with these things? It's very unpredictable. So, Lippy, we've got a special guest this week.
We do, the specialist guest.
Special guest, DJ Finn. I've known all his life. We met his parents at NCT classes. Here we've had many, many adventures since then, all over the place. Some skiing, some camping, music festivals. Finn is a great musician and quite a talented coder, as it turns out. DJ Finn, welcome.
Hi.
So we've got two topics that we're going to discuss. DJ Finn, the first one, as it is, and I'm going to struggle to say this, Veganuary month in January. Is that the correct pronunciation?
I'd say Veganuary.
Yeah, I would say Veganuary, not Veganuary.
Yeah, I know it's not right, but I look at the word and I panic.
Stress.
If you know what I mean. So, Finn, you are our authorised source for all things vegan. So tell us a bit about the movement and why you decided to become vegan.
So vegan is not eating any products produced by animals. So not just meat, but milk, eggs, basically any product that involves farming animals. And there's a few reasons, I guess, that you'd become vegan. For me, there's three key reasons, and this is probably for most people, which form kind of a triangle, I guess, and each person, I think, is somewhere on that triangle in terms of what they care about more. So one of them is the environment. There is a lot of research that shows that it's better for the environment to be vegan. Having said that, there's a lot of information in both directions. So for me, that's actually not one of the biggest reasons, because
it's a factor, not a
Yeah, you can get very muddled, and there's a lot of documentaries out there, and there's a lot of things online, and like most things online, it's very difficult to figure out what is actually true and what isn't. But yeah, I think there are some definite, I mean, the agriculture industry in general definitely produces some sort of emissions. But so does farming vegetables. So yeah, there's things either way. So yeah, that's one sort of corner of a triangle. The second probably is just personal health and fitness and enjoyment as well. So for me, this is like the biggest part of it. I sort of slowly started eating more vegan, and I found a massive health benefit. So I was running better, I felt better, and I enjoyed cooking vegan food more. One of the things I hated about cooking meat is like whether
cooking the meat.
Yeah, like having to handle raw meat, having to deal with like knowing if something's fully cooked or not. Things like that. Like it doesn't.
I feel you with that one. That one I agree with.
Is the chicken cooked or not? Am I going to get salmonella? Like that kind of vibe. You don't have to deal with as much maybe. And so yeah, we can talk about this a little bit more in discussion. But yeah, the last one is obviously animal welfare. So that is just, if you're an animal lover, then one of the biggest advantages of being vegan is you kind of know that you're not responsible for any animals dying for your diet. For me, the environment and the animal welfare part are not the main reasons that I did it. The main reason I did it was I tried it and I just preferred it. And to be honest with you, I was never that into cooking.
Yeah.
But when I started eating vegan, I find it quite exciting. I find finding new food exciting. I also find cooking food for non-vegans exciting because I want to impress them. And actually, a lot of the time, you cook someone a meal and you go, "That's vegan, by the way," and they go, "Wow, really?" Because it tastes really good. Yeah. And there's plenty of people who think that all vegan food is disgusting. I don't know why. It's just a thing that comes to people's head. Vegan, it must taste horrible.
I think it probably depends on age. I mean, if I go back to the late 80s, my girlfriend at the time had a friend who was vegetarian and would produce this vegetarian food. And it was basically the same mush in a slightly different colour each night. And clearly she'd come from my parents' generation, where you'd put the Brussels sprouts on for Christmas in about mid-October, and they might just about be done by 25th of December. So I can see how some people may have got that conception because of their experiences in the past. And if you go back to the 70s and 80s, the vegetarian food wasn't that great, to be honest. And there was not the range that we have now. So my question for you, DJ Finn, is did you go via vegetarianism or did you just go straight for veganism?
No. So what actually happened was I'd always known lots of people who were vegan. That's probably for like the last 4 or 5 years. Now, veganism in general has evolved a lot in 4 or 5 years in terms of what you see on the shelves in supermarkets.
Massively.
And restaurants and things like that as well. Like restaurants, and especially chain restaurants, actually now offering vegan options. Places like Domino's and Papa John's and big brands coming out and doing vegan versions of their food. So I'd kind of dipped my toes in a little bit, and then my current girlfriend Jess has been vegan for a while, and she had no problem with me eating meat, but most of the time when we went out I just sort of was interested and intrigued, so I would eat this. We'd go to vegan only restaurants and I'd eat that kind of food, and that's when I started being like, okay, this is pretty good. Like I really enjoy eating vegan food. I think at that point I was still stuck for inspiration a little bit. And I this was a year and a half ago maybe, and I was actually thinking, Veganuary's coming up soon, maybe I'll try doing it for Veganuary. And then I was like, well, why am I waiting till then? So I just started in like October, and I sort of said I'll just try it for a week and see what happens.
See how you feel.
Yeah, tried it for a week and then just basically never went back, which is quite weird actually. But once I started, I was like, actually, I just prefer it.
Yeah, interesting. I have to say, I quite like veggie options of things. So I think something like a spicy bean burger, for example, is very good. And I was at Premier Inn earlier this year and had one of the Beyond Burgers in their restaurant, which was fantastic. I mean, I would go as far as say it's better than a meat-based burger. I do worry slightly about what's in it in terms of preservatives. And
that is the thing that creeps me out, is when it's fake meat, when it's meant to be chicken, but it's not chicken. And what's in it really creeps me out. Like, how have they made it taste like chicken when it's not chicken?
I mean, one thing I would say is it depends what meat you're eating, because a lot of meat probably has more worse things in it. Like, I think there's a big difference between eating like chicken nuggets from McDonald's and eating like a fresh piece of lamb from a farm in Wales.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yes, so meat substitutes, I would say that, there's probably some preservatives in them, and I think it's never going to be the same as eating a fresh piece of meat that's come from a farm or something that has, that's high quality. However, most people don't actually eat high quality meat regularly.
Anyway, yeah, true.
I don't think.
Because it's expensive to get a good bit of meat.
And when it comes to things like chicken nuggets, I personally just do not think there's I think there's a small difference, but not a noticeable difference now between eating one or the other. Which is why I'm very shocked, and I think it will change in the next year or so. But like places like McDonald's, the meat that they serve, you could serve that plant-based and it wouldn't taste any different.
Well, I think the phrase that horrifies me with that is mechanically reclaimed chicken, which involves jet washing.
Chicken.
It is chicken, but it's the bits on the carcass that if you had a roast chicken for dinner, you'd put in the food bin. You wouldn't get the jet wash out and remove the last fragments of meat on there and then compress it into a product. But going back to the burger, I think in terms of either vegetarian or vegan burgers, I think the burger is fair game because it's not a piece of meat. It's not a recognized piece of meat. It's formed. So I think the burgers are, they're absolutely perfect. As Lippy said, I do struggle a little bit with vegan bacon. And we've had this discussion before, and you've talked about bringing people that traditional meat eaters into the vegan world, and that is a way of doing it. And I guess that's what that's there for.
Interestingly, with the bacon thing, the whole time I've been vegan up until a few weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago, maybe, I have always stayed clear of things like vegan bacon, because the ones that I have tried, I've just been like, it's a waste of time. Like,
it's not bacon. Yeah.
However, I have just made, and I found there's a chef I absolutely love called Gaz Oakley, young Welsh guy, and very similar to me. He likes hearty food, so that's another thing with my vegan diet is I'm not a salad eater. Like, I want hearty food, because that's what I like. He has a recipe for seitan bacon, and that is actually very, very nice. I wouldn't say that it tastes anything like bacon, but you can.
But it tastes good.
It tastes good, and the texture's good, and you can eat it in similar ways to how you would eat bacon. So you can put it in a butty and have like a bacon butty, or you can
without the butter.
Well, no, you can use vegan butter, which is any different, like Flora. Things like, so this week I'm actually going to try a new recipe for a carbonara, which uses that bacon, which would be interesting. The vegan turkey that I made at Christmas was wrapped in the bacon. So there's kind of, you can use it in similar ways, which is why I think the vegan industry tries to sort of make similar things to the meat, because it gives people inspiration. They're like, well, I can make this meat meal, but I can replace the meat with a substitute. Obviously it doesn't work for all things.
No, I don't know if we've spoken about vegans or vegetarians on the podcast before, but I like my meat. I'm not fussed so much about like chicken and stuff, but bacon. But I think vegans have, unfortunately, not all of them, but because of a few, have a very bad reputation for pushing veganism onto other people. And I think that's also a reason why so many people don't want to be vegan. It's not because they don't agree or because their food isn't as nice. It's that somebody's trying to push it on them. And literally because of that reason, they're like, no, I hate vegans. Vegans are awful. They're just trying to make people not eat meat all the time.
I think you're very right there. Unashamedly would say that I had similar opinions at one point in my life, which is interesting because now I'm one of the people.
Yeah. Well, I was heckled on the high street once before because the vegan, just grabbed me and my friend and started telling us that we shouldn't be eating meat and we should be vegan. And little did she know, we could have been vegan. Obviously not, because I do like meat. But I think that is one reason why so many people don't like vegans, is because of the small group that really push.
You get that faction though with any group. It's not only vegetarians or veganism. You get it with religious and political parties as well, or go
Definitely.
way over the top. And there's always going to be a small number of those. So I don't think that's any reason not to give it a go. So to be honest, I struggle with veganism because I couldn't give up cheese.
Oh, cheese. How do you do the cheese?
I'd really struggle with that. And we had some vegan butter, which I couldn't eat, to be honest.
What brand was it?
I can't remember.
Flora.
Was it Flora?
I got it in the HelloFresh box and donated it to Dad because I don't have butter anyway, so I wasn't going to ever use it. And then 2 days later, I got a picture from Mum with it in the food recycling as a whole bar. I
did try it, but I do like my butter and I do like my cheese. So that would be, I think, almost impossible at my age to give up.
That's the one thing that people say a lot is butter and cheese and milk. For example, eggs is another one that's pretty impossible to replicate, actually. But yeah, in regards to cheese, I was a massive cheese eater and I was also a massive butter eater. In terms of butter, I moved to Flora, which didn't take me very long to get used to. And I now use that for everything and get the same satisfaction out of it.
That's good.
And with cheese, I actually just cut down on cheese because the thing that I was eating, the reason I was eating a lot of cheese was basically laziness. I just make cheese toasties because they were easy.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was something that I cut out and I expected to find really difficult and then actually didn't. And I think if I did find it really, really difficult, I would have given up. I think that's one of the weird things with being vegan is I don't think I would have carried on if it was really, really difficult for me.
Yeah.
It was only...
It had to be an easy thing to make and cook and... snack on for it to work.
Yeah, going back to what you said about people who shove it in your face. Now, people who shove it in your face and then make you feel awful, and then you go, oh, I better be vegan for a bit because I feel so bad about all those animal slaughter videos that I've just seen on social media. You're never going to stay vegan if you're doing it just because you feel bad about it.
No.
You have to actually enjoy
Want to make the change, yeah.
You have to enjoy it. And I think, interestingly, cutting out dairy was probably made me feel better the most because I think it can clog you up a lot, dairy. And
I get so ill on milk, but I love a latte.
Yeah,
but then I now drink oat lattes, which are great.
Yeah, so oat milk is amazing. I absolutely love milk. Yeah, that's I wouldn't be able to live without Oatly, I don't think.
My other question is wine. Does vegan wine taste the same?
Wine is an interesting one because, and I guess that's somewhere where I deviate a little bit, is it's very difficult to find out whether some wines are vegan or not. And in that scenario, I do actually just turn a blind eye. So if I know that wine is definitely vegan, then I would probably try and choose it if I could. If I know a wine is definitely not vegan, then I wouldn't buy it. However,
you don't check necessarily.
You go in the supermarket to buy a bottle of wine. Yeah, how do you find out whether it's vegan or not? It's actually very difficult. There are some apps that try and help you, but most of the time the wines actually aren't on there.
Because I don't think it states it on the back whether or not they just advertise whether it's vegan. They don't advertise necessarily that what's not vegan about it.
Yeah, so they'll say if they're vegan, but they also won't say if they're not vegan.
Yeah.
Where are the animal products used in wine?
So there's two.
They're strained through sheep stomachs.
There's a couple. The first one is, I think, straining or getting rid of the yeast through sieving it through animal products. So I think fish guts is one that's used for that, especially in beers, actually, for getting rid of the yeast. It acts like a net. Apparently, they haven't found an artificial way of doing that that's better for some old style beers, I think. And then the other is gelatine.
Oh, of course, yes. Yeah. So do you have any favourite recipes?
I have a few. One thing I absolutely love is what you were talking about earlier, vegan burgers. So I'm absolutely massive fan of those. That's like my go-to takeaway when I'm in London. So in East London, where I live, there are probably between 15 and 20 specialist vegan burger joints.
Wow.
Yeah, on Deliveroo that will deliver to you within half an hour. So the choice is, and that's another reason, I think it would be more difficult to be vegan if you didn't live in a city where you have that kind of choice on your doorstep. Takeaway wise, vegan burgers, unbelievable. There's a very good vegan burger joint actually that Lewis Hamilton's quite involved with called Neat Burger, and that's near me as well. And that unbelievable, absolutely love it. In terms of home cooking, I was a massive fan of chili when I was eating meat. And I've replaced that with 3-bean chili, which
I love tremendous.
A bean chili. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, which for me is the same, if not better. So
I think when it's chili, you don't even know that there's meat in it necessarily. Like the beef doesn't add to a chili.
Well, I think some meat eaters would disagree, but yeah, I think for me it's the flavour, and the flavour doesn't change a lot having the meat or not having the meat. There are some good vegan minces, which I sometimes add as well. One thing actually that we didn't talk about with meat substitutes, which is quite interesting, and this is another reason why I do try and eat them if I can, is a lot of them are fortified with the kind of vitamins that you might lack if you don't eat meat. So things like B12, which is a massive reason why meat eaters go, you can't be vegan because you won't get any B12. So these meat products do try to add those vitamins to the meat substitutes. So it is also quite a good way to make sure that you're getting the right amount of vitamins by sort of eating in the same sort of style that you did before, but just with the meat substitutes instead in some scenarios. I do also take multivitamins just to try, specialist vegan multivitamins, which supposedly have a lot of the things that you might lack. And that's just based on maybe a bit of laziness, actually, in just wanting to make sure that I'm not lacking in anything.
I don't think it's laziness, to be honest. I mean, I've taken vitamins for donkey's years, and it's just making sure you're stocked up on that sort of thing. It's the same with vitamin D over the winter. Obviously, we don't see so much of the sun. Sometimes not in the summer either, it has to be said. So, taking vitamin D, and that's come out in the latest goings on, let's put it that way, that a vitamin D is quite important to the way that your immune system works. And I don't think there's anything wrong with taking additional vitamins whatsoever. And you're covered then, and you don't have to go and eat something specific just to cover that. Because let's face it, if you're a meat eater, the chances are you're not planning your meals to get certain nutrients. You might do if you're a bodybuilder or an athlete, but for most of us, you tend to eat what's on special offer in the supermarket that week, and it's not there's not really any planning that's got into it whatsoever. But one question is oily fish, though. So oily fish has there's bits in that are very good for you. Is that something that you can replicate with either with plant-based or with supplements?
So is that talking about like omega-3 and stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I guess you can supplement that. It's not something that I do supplement. Interestingly, fish is probably the thing that I miss the most out of everything.
Fish would be the thing I miss the most.
Yeah, that is something that pops up in my dreams sometimes. A nice piece of cod.
Battered cod.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, if I was to go back to eating any sort of animal, it would probably be a fish, but I would make sure that it was sustainably farmed, which is difficult in itself, to be fair. But
yeah, absolutely.
Because how do you trust anything, really? But if I went to a restaurant in Scotland and I knew that the fisherman down the road caught it, then I'd feel a lot better about it if it was line caught and it wasn't actually farmed in a sense. But yeah, I do miss fish, and I do think that you're right. There are some good things in fish that might be hard to replicate.
Interestingly, though, we've done a tour of Scotland, and I expected to be able to buy fresh fish and cook it. Not a chance. It's a massive industry. There's a whole load of boats that go out and capture a whole load of stuff, and then it just goes down south. They don't have a little fish stall on the edge of the quay selling fresh fish as you'd expect. So
no one in Scotland eats it.
It's odd. Well, I'm not saying that, but certainly it's an industry and it's the thing that they sell. And certainly in terms of salmon, there's a lot of salmon farms in Scotland. And there's a lot of controversy about this. And I was reading in Private Eye a couple of weeks ago, there was a mass escape by farmed salmon into the sea, which sounds hilarious, but actually it's not, because these salmon are the farm salmon. They don't have the muscle strength that a wild salmon has. And now you've got these fish that are intermingling and then breeding poor samples of salmon. So farming fish just feels wrong to me. And quite apart from things like sea lice and some really horrible goings on, it's just best not to, really. So
yeah, and I think trawling is another one that's really, really bad, because they trawl up a load of stuff which they don't even want. But problem is,
killing things for no purpose in that sense.
Yeah. But catching something on a line is expensive, and people get it cheap.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we had that at Christmas. Some of the supermarkets were advertising turkey at £3 a kilogram, and we paid 13 for ours, and it was very tasty. But it had been reared with with a lot of care, and thought had gone into it rather than any sort of battery farming. Interesting. It will be interesting to have this conversation again in a year and see where we are, because it's clearly a growing momentum. And there's a little bit of a backlash as well from farmers I'm seeing, where they say, well, actually, we're not as bad as you think we are. So it'd be interesting where we are, but it can only be a varied diet can only be a good thing. And I think if people can introduce more plant into their diets, then we'd be better as a nation.
Yeah, I think
it's all about the balance.
Yeah, one thing I would always say is you don't have to be completely vegan. It's just good to sometimes try something new, and cooking a vegan meal can sometimes be fun.
I try and be vegetarian twice a week.
Yeah, there you go. That's better than nothing.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is. Well, when all this malarkey's over and you're back this way, then come and entice us with some vegan cooking, DJ Finn.
I would be more than happy to.
Oh, and of course, camping. We've got some hopefully mega camping trips lined up for this year.
Yeah, and I also love a vegan barbecue, so that is not out of the question at all.
Can we still have halloumi even though it's a vegan barbecue?
You can have whatever you want.
Yes,
but I will.
It's just the cheese for me.
Yeah. I totally get that, and I don't take any offence.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to better times and better cooking. So our talk with DJ Finn about veganism and also about music festivals went on so long we've had to split them into 2 separate weeks.
We have.
Yeah. We recorded with Finn last week, and after we'd finished, he sent a message saying he has got an Instagram channel full of his the food that he's made called Finn Eats Plants. I will put a link on the website. And it's cracking. There was one popped up from a breakfast he cooked, and it looked fantastic, I have to say. And he'd gone double potatoes, which is always a good thing in my view. So had some little fried potatoes and hash browns.
I do like a potato.
Kudos to that. So if you're into Instagram, then it's worth checking out. That's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
You can help spread Lippy and Grumpy's view on life by leaving a review on your favourite podcast platform.
If you're not sure how to leave a review, or if you download from Spotify, there's some help at lippyandgrumpy.uk/review.
And if you would like to get in touch, email podcast@lippyandgrumpy.uk.
So it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from him.
Goodbye.